Welcome to the chalkboard, my fellow football nerds, for episode number 113 of Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Shane Haff, and you can follow me on Twitter and YouTube at Shane Haff NFL. I'm joined today by the best co-host in the game. You've heard him on the Tough Cover radio show. It is Mark Henry Jr. Give him a follow on Twitter at MarkHenryJr_. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. The Phillies are winning. I'm sleepy, but we have some interesting stuff to talk about. We are in peak NFL offseason here. This is like peak NFL offseason where we're making stuff up to talk about, and I'm spending way too much time thinking about hypotheticals.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is peak NFL offseason. So this is fun, but I say this every week. I cannot wait until we get to a situation where we're recapping actual football. It's definitely missed at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mark mentioned peak off-season content. We are there because today I'm going to be pitching rule changes for the NFL. And you guys can drop in the comments. Let me know what rules you would like to see changed, which of mine you like and don't like. I've got some serious ones. I've got some not so serious ones. I think Mark has a couple of them as well. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to talk through some explosive play rate charts that I posted earlier this week and a few teams that I'm pretty high on for this upcoming season. So without any further ado, let's dive into it. And again, if you guys are watching live on YouTube or Twitch or wherever right now, Facebook, be sure and drop us a comment. Let us know what you guys think. Drop some of your rule suggestions. We'll throw them up on the screen and talk about them. But here we go, Mark. My first rule change idea. It's time to fix overtime. The whole losing the game in overtime without getting the ball, that was atrocious. They tried to fix it, but they didn't really fix it because you can still just get the ball and score a touchdown and end the game. Or I don't like it. If you're tied after you each get a possession, it's still just sudden death. So I've got two proposals for overtime to fix it. And you tell me which one you like better. Okay, so here's the first idea. The first idea is that the end of regulation, if it's still tied, you should just pick up from where the game ended in the fourth quarter. Like, you've got the ball at the 40-yard line when the game ends. You have the ball at the 40-yard line going into overtime. Next point wins. Make it sudden death. Like, it shouldn't be this resetting of the game where I get to kick a field goal as time expires, and then I get the ball back first to go win overtime. So that's my first idea.
I'm out. I don't like that one.
Yeah, boo. Okay, here's the other one. Let play continue from where it ended. So again, I got the ball in the 40. I get it.
That's my issue.
With the current rules about, like, if you kick a field goal, the other team still gets a chance. So you can't just sit on it in field goal range. You still got to go try to score a touchdown.
Yeah, my issue is the teams aren't going to try to score at the end of games because they're going to get the ball back. I don't think overtime's that big of a problem. I always say this.
Though, well, hold on. Before we get into whether overtime's a problem, that's an interesting hypothetical. So say you've got the ball on the 40-yard line. Are you attempting a 57-yard field goal as time expires to win it in regulation? Or are you just sitting on it and saying, no, we're going to take it to overtime, and then we got to go try to score a touchdown so we don't give the ball back?
I think you're taking it to overtime.
I guess it depends on your kicker, too. Like, if you got Justin Tucker, you're trotting him out there to win the game. I would put Jake Elliott out there to win it with a 57-yard field goal. Maybe not a 40-yard field goal. He struggles a little bit when he gets closer, but that would be interesting hypotheticals, how that would play out.
Yeah, I'm out. I always hesitate to fix overtime in general. I will say I like college overtime. They ruined that, though. Like, I think they ruined college overtime with the whole now third overtime is. Yeah,
I liked old school college overtime. Or what was it, the third overtime or the fourth overtime? You had to start going for two, but like there was still a whole possession before that. I can't remember if it was third or fourth overtime, but
yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with making them go for two, but like circumventing the whole thing. Now it's just a 2-point conversion off once it's like the third overtime. Like they
Right.
don't even make you score the touchdown
And that
to
becomes
then get to that.
largely just luck.
Yeah, I hate it now, but when it used to, how college overtime used to be, that's the only way I'd really even consider switching overtime, I think. So I guess I thought long and hard for my own rule changes, and I only came up with 2. I should have just said retro college overtime. That's my rule change.
There you go. But you got to at least like adjust the spot of the ball, right? You can't be starting at the 25.
Yeah.
That's chip shot field goals for days. Maybe do it at like the 50 or something.
Yeah, 45, 50, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
You could go with like the Madden tug of war thing where the ball starts at the 50 and you get a play, and then I get a play from where your play ended, and the first team to put it in the end zone wins.
Although I'd say about the field goal thing, it's kind of a chip shot in college too. I don't think that's I don't think that's the point to get a field goal, because I think if you're on the 25 with a first down and you get a field goal, it's almost like a failure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I feel like I'm fine with the NFL guys starting on the 25. It just might end up being even. Do you think there would be more touchdowns in college overtime in the NFL than there was in college? But defenses are better too. So it's like,
yeah, but defenses aren't really allowed to play either. Sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Maybe we'll get into some rule changes about that too. Make defense great again.
Yeah. I'm not part of that. I don't want to go back to the 1970s.
I don't either, but I'd love for a defensive player to have like an equal opportunity to make a play on the ball.
Sorry if my dad's listening out here. I know he wants to go back to the Buddy Ryan Eagles days, where you could just blitz 9 guys. But I'm bad with like rule change stuff, because I am always like, yeah, I like the sport. Like I'm a fan of the sport how it is, and like there's little things, of course, that I change, but
All right. Okay, so I'm 0 for 1. I didn't get Mark on my overtime rules. I'm going to get him on some of these, though. You're going to like some of my rules. I can feel it. So here's my next one. NFL wants to do away with special teams. Like they're moving that direction. Now this year, they're following the suit of college. You can fair catch, a ball on a kickoff and you get it at the 25, even if it's not in the end zone, which Eagles fans rejoice because everybody pop-up kicks to the Eagles because their special teams is atrocious. But I think we should award the ball, instead of it being at the 25 on a touchback, I think if the kicker can kick it through the uprights, you should spot the ball at the 15 instead.
I'm out because I want less kicks. I want less uprights. Is it time for my rule change?
Let's hear it.
I've given it many times on the show. You eliminate kickers. Kickers are gone. Their contracts are absolved. I'm sorry, Justin Tucker. We'll still put your plaque in the Hall of Fame to remember that kickers used to exist. But what you do is you make the uprights really tiny. Like maybe we basically just make them skinny, like just a really, really like an H. And you have quarterbacks, instead of kick field goals, they have to throw it through the uprights.
Is this for field goals, extra points?
Yeah, keep the same system, but you make the uprights tiny so that it's like precision passing drills in Madden.
Okay. We need to get you on the Pat McAfee show to go pitch this rule to Pat.
I just think it would create a market where like these like gimmick quarterbacks would start getting picked up, where they're just like, oh, the guy throws 70 yards. He has no idea where it's going, but he throws it 70 yards. Like, we have to try it. Like who like Jamarcus Russell would have had a longer career. Like,
I don't know if
still be going.
If he could throw it 70 yards through a skinny upright, I'm gonna hazard a guess he would have made it as a actual quarterback, though.
That's fair. I'm fine keeping the uprights as is if we want to get
I was
crazy.
gonna say it might go the other way. You might start having like some noodle arm quarterbacks that just don't have the arm to make it in a league, but they've hit a roster spot because they're just like super accurate and they can hit the 35, 40-yard field goals all day.
But you know what's going to happen too? Like someone's going to use their starter and they're going to get hurt and it's going to be like, "Oh my god, like we can't be using starters to do this. Like it's
Oh
too
yeah.
risky."
So do you get to rush the passer on these field goals, or is it just like just the quarterback on the field?
No, I
Makes
think
the
you get
throw.
to rush him. I think you get to
Okay.
rush him. But I mean, you'd line up in shotgun and I feel like you one step drop it.
Yeah. Just take the snap 10 yards back. Super
Yeah.
deep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
I'm more open to it. I'm more open to it than you have been to my ideas so far.
I think there's some coming that are no-brainers.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's another one. Thinking a little outside the box on this one. So you're the offense and you've got the ball on your own 2-yard line, right? And you call a running play and you get a holding penalty and it's half the distance to the goal, which is like half a yard, right? I think that's dumb. On defense, you're backed up to your own goal line and you line up in the neutral zone and it's half the distance to the goal, 6 inches, big whoop. So I think we need to fix this. I think for offensive teams, let's say you're on the 2-yard line and you commit a 10-yard penalty, instead of going back 1 yard and now you've got 1st and 11 from the 1, I think we keep the ball where it's at. If we can't move the ball back 10 yards, we move the first down marker up 10 yards. So now instead of 1st and 11 at the 1, you've got 1st and 20 at the 2. Same thing for the defense. Like if you commit a 10-yard penalty in the end zone, we obviously can't go half the distance or we don't want to go half the distance to the goal. So we're going to move the ball back 10 yards and move the pylons up 10 yards. So congratulations, the end zone just got 10 yards bigger. What do you think of this one?
I'm in. Yeah, I'm in. There's no reason not to be in. Yeah. 1st and 11, 1st and 13 is stupid.
I got him. I am here. I am here for some team having a 25-yard end zone because a defensive player commits pass interference in the end zone.
Yeah, I'm in for it. I'm absolutely in for it. I don't know if this is a rule change, but I want the refs to be less strict about safeties.
Okay.
Like it feels like if you get like any part of the ball or your body out, like they don't give it to the defense. Like I think if it's close, you should give it to the defense.
Okay. Tie goes to the defense.
Yeah. I think if it's close and like you're getting dragged down in the end zone and you barely get out, like I think you should have to get like the whole football out of the end zone.
I can get on board with that. Get your whole body out of the end zone.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too. Like
any part of your body's in the end zone.
Sumo situation, yeah.
Okay. All right, here, I got another one for you. You're a hockey fan, right? At least a little bit?
A little, not really, yeah. But I have an alter ego.
Okay.
Marky Pucks.
I like the idea, I like power plays in hockey.
Yes.
So I propose unsportsmanlike conduct penalties and unnecessary roughness penalties are no longer 15-yard penalties.
I like that.
Instead, the player who committed the penalty spends 4 plays in the penalty box, which, by the way, is a plexiglass box on the opposing team's sideline.
4 plays is steep.
4 plays in the penalty box, and his team has to play down a man.
4 plays is steep, but I like the premise.
Maybe we go 3 plays?
I think it might be 1 play. One play without one guy on defense would be a pretty huge advantage.
I don't know.
You'd have to think your chance of scoring on that play, or at least just making an explosive play, would go way up.
Yeah. That would be a rule that like they would definitely have to reevaluate after like a preseason because I have no idea what the actual outcome would be. In my mind, you just like rush 3 for 1 play and play a normal coverage and I don't know.
I guess it would be something that the smart head coaches would be able to like take advantage of.
Yeah.
more than anything else.
My favorite part of the rule, though, is the plexiglass box being on the opposing team's sideline. Like, you got to go sit in this box, and their guys on the bench can like yell through the
I think it should be
at you.
I think it should be in like the first row of the opposing. I guess it doesn't work if you're at home. I was gonna say if you're on the road, they should make you sit like with the fans. Like they should make you sit like in the front row with the fans.
That would be a long walk. And then you have to get up into the first row of the bleachers for one play.
I like that.
Okay, well, we can tinker with the length, but I think we're on to something here with the power play idea.
Yeah. I know you're not a basketball fan, but there's like a league that's being run. It's not the G League, but it's like a developmental league. And these two twin brothers actually just got picked 4th and 5th in the NBA draft from this developmental league. And they do power plays in basketball. And it's like there's like 5-on-4s and 5-on-3s. It's insane. I don't know. It's a gimmick, but it's
what do you have to do in basketball that results in a power play?
Yeah, I think it's just like
it's like over the back, you're out for 2 minutes.
No, I think it's like developmental stuff where it's like if you do something that's like against their code or like whatever, I don't know. It's because it's like a developmental league or it's supposed to be like draft prep, I guess. But
okay,
bizarre. Yeah, it's truly, truly weird.
All right. Well, I got another a little more serious one here. I think coaches should be able to challenge in the final 2 minutes of a half. I don't know why. I know it goes to like it has to be signaled from the booth. I think a coach should have a right to throw a challenge flag in the last 2 minutes. I also think timeouts should not be tied to challenges because that's something you would run into. It coaches calling timeouts at the end of the game to stop the clock, and now all of a sudden they're out of timeouts and they can't challenge. And I also think you should not be limited to 3 challenges. As it works now, if you win your first 2 challenges, you get a third challenge. I think you should be able to challenge as many plays as you want until you miss a challenge. Like if you're throwing a red flag and the officials got the call wrong, you shouldn't lose a challenge. So you can continue to throw flags until you lose a challenge and then you're done.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. What I would say to even go a step further is I almost think challenges should be like taken out of the coaches and the team's hands. Like I think it should almost universally just be done on every play by the NFL, like or by a team of people in a studio and like whatever. Maybe even you make the play clock a few seconds longer and you make it so that you have like 50 seconds between every play to evaluate what just happened. And if there's anything that needs to be reviewed, you stop play. Like I don't know if that's plausible. I really don't, but I think that it shouldn't be on the NFL's, like it shouldn't be on the teams to clean up the NFL's mess, I guess.
Yeah, I'd be on board with that. And in that same vein, I've got one that kind of goes there. So let's talk about roughing the passer penalties, which they're just atrocious. And I get it. It's a QB driven league. You want to keep quarterbacks healthy. I'm all for that. I'm all for the game being safer. But you tell guys they cannot hit a quarterback in the head. They cannot hit them in the legs. You can't land on them. You also can't throw them to the ground. Like you pretty much have to pick a quarterback up and gently lay him on the ground, or it be a scrambling quarterback to avoid getting a penalty called on you. So first thing is landing on a quarterback is not roughing the passer. Like I tackle you, we're both going to the ground. I land on you. That is not roughing the passer. That's step 1. Step 2 is I think all roughing the passer penalties should be automatically reviewed from a central league official, like NFL office, New York, whatever, not somebody that's on site, somebody that is looking at every roughing the passer call, automatically reviewed. Game stops while we take a look at it. I mean, it doesn't take long, but those plays happen so fast, and that needs to be taken out of the officials' hands because some of the roughing the passer calls we saw last year and the year before are just ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it's hard in real time, but yeah, I think that it's something that as soon as you see a replay, you can pretty easily make a distinction on it.
Yeah, and the reason I say central league official is because we tried the whole thing with reviewing pass interference penalties. What was it, a couple years ago after the Saints cried about it? officials are not going to admit they made a mistake on a judgment call, even if it's obvious. And we saw that. So that's why it has to be taken out of their hands. It's different on like, I don't know why it's different for their ego with like whether a ball was a catch or not. They're willing to change those calls. They weren't willing to change a penalty call. So that needs to be a central league office.
Yeah, totally agree.
Okay. Here's another one for you. Nobody likes the coin toss. That's boring. It's not even on TV most of the time. I think we should replace the coin toss with a field goal competition between randomly drawn players from each team. Because who doesn't want to see Aaron Donald kicking field goals against Brock Purdy to see who gets the ball first?
I'm out. Less field goals, not more.
I thought about saying the head coaches have a head coach pump, pass, and kick thing or something like that, but I don't know. Then you're really discriminating against the Bill Belichick's of the world, who would never be able to compete with the younger guys in a punting competition.
Yeah, this is not the total sidebar. Who wins a NFL head coach Royal Rumble right now?
Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, it's Vrabel, right? Is there anyone else in the conversation? Mike McCarthy, big fella?
Nah, Vrabel would eat him for lunch.
I'm taking a look throughout the league here.
Yeah.
Robert Saleh?
Robert Saleh could probably throw down.
Tomlin's kind of short, I think.
What about
You think Dougie P? You think he can handle himself?
I don't know. He's just kind of got that he's got the grandpa vibe for me.
Yeah.
What about Arthur Smith? He's kind of a well-built guy.
Well-built is one way to say it. Well-built is one way to say it. I'm looking through. There's not a lot. Dable's another well-built guy. You want to go there? Rivera 10 years ago, I think, would have been in this conversation, but I think he's moved to the grandpa section. Oh my God. I forgot. My guy, Dan Campbell. I forgot about him.
Yeah. He bites your kneecap.
Wow, Dan Campbell versus Vrabel would be.
When you said my guy, I thought you were about to say Kyle Shanahan. And I was
like,
there's about 18 coaches in the league that would fall on Kyle Shanahan and end him.
Kyle Shanahan would scheme his way into winning the Royal Rumble. Yeah, it's got to be. I'm looking around here. New Orleans, no. Atlanta, no.
I mean, you could look at like Arizona, Jonathan Gannon. He wouldn't show up.
Pew 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 pew. But yeah, it's Dan Campbell versus Mike Vrabel, and I'd be curious what the odds would be.
You're the betting guy. You're gonna have to set the odds for us.
I think it's Dan Campbell minus 150.
Maybe if enough people tweet at them, we could get a cage match set up, like with Elon and Zuckerberg.
Yeah, it'll be on the undercard.
There you go.
I like that.
That's one of the more interesting side tangents I think we've ever taken on this show. Okay, so you don't like anything with kickers, even if they're not kickers. Here, let's go with another easy one. No more automatic first downs on penalties. A defensive holding that's a 5-yard penalty on 3rd and 20 should not be an automatic first down. It should be a 5-yard penalty. I feel like that one's pretty easy.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Then we've got the Eagles rule. I stole this one from the Eagles a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But onside kicks are dumb. The way they've changed it, you can't bounce the ball up in the air. They're just not going to happen. Just replace onside kicks with a 4th and 20 from your own 20-yard line. Like, you score a touchdown, you want the ball back, you get one shot. You can go on 4th and 20 from your own 20-yard line.
By the way, this is not from a couple of years ago. I believe they've pitched this each of the last 5 years.
Oh, really? Eagles. I didn't realize that.
And I think they've added like 1 or 2 yeses each year. Someone was saying on a podcast, they were saying like if they kept the same track of adding votes they would get there in like 8 years or something. So
Yeah.
just keep plugging away, Jeffrey
There you
Lurie
go.
and Howie.
Here's the question. Here's the more important question. If you're Andy Reid, would you ever kick the ball off if you could try a 4th and 20 from your own 20? Like, you just got to do that, right?
Oh, just so you can make it take it at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you got to figure what 25% of the time you could convert that, maybe with Patrick Mahomes, 20% of the time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right, I got a couple more here. This one's another easy one. This is a stupid rule that I can't believe's never been fixed, but I loathe the rule that if an offensive player is extending for the end zone and they fumble the ball out of bounds in the end zone, it's a touchback for the defense. That's the stupidest rule. No, if you're an offensive player and you fumble the ball and it goes out of bounds at the 1-inch line, you get the ball where you fumbled it. If it goes 1 inch into the end zone and then out of bounds, it's a touchback and you lose the ball. I think that's the stupidest rule ever. A fumble out of bounds by an offensive player should always be spotted at the spot of the fumble. Defense shouldn't get fumbles like that.
I like it. I think it's fun. I think it's a goofy rule. I think it's
Get outta
stupid.
here.
I think it's a stupid loophole, and it's fun when it happens like 3 times a year. I think it's like a fun little instance.
It's one of the dumbest rules out there. You're just
It's fair.
trolling now.
I don't have an opinion on it, but when it happens, it's always like, oh, that's crazy. Like,
I forgot about that rule.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another one. So with the advent of tempo offense, you saw this a lot more in college, but it's happened some in the NFL. You know, you get the guy that goes down with the phantom injury, right, to stop the offense's tempo. And then, you know, after collapsing on the field and writhing in pain and limping off the field, he comes back on after one play. No more. If play stops for an injured player, I think he should have to stay off the field for the duration of the drive. I think there's 2 benefits here. One is that it stops the phantom injuries to stop tempo because your guy's going to have to miss the rest of the drive. The other, legitimate safety thing, right? Like a quarterback gets hit in the head and we pull him off, you know, he's down on the field for 5 minutes and they pull him off for one play and they put the backup in to hand the ball off because they have to, and the starter trots back out. Like, it gives you the rest of that drive and the drive the other team has, because presumably no one's playing both ways. It gives you time mandated by the league to properly evaluate an injury. I think that's a no-brainer. Really, honestly, more from a health standpoint after the things that we saw with Tua last year. But it's got the added side benefit of it stops the phantom injuries against tempo.
Yeah, I'm in on that. No reason to not be in on that.
All right. No more taunting penalties. They don't exist.
Yeah, 100%.
Taunting's dumb.
Have fun.
All right. And then my last rule proposal. I don't know which way you're going to go on this because it involves kicking. But
I'm out.
You know, every once in a while we get the ball that like goes over the uprights and it's like right on the line, and you got them like drawing the line on the teleprompter. Like, was it good? Was it not? Nobody knows. We're just guessing. I think you should put a crossbar on top of the goalpost, and anything over it's a miss. You have to kick it through the goalposts. No more kicking it 20 yards over the top of the goalposts.
Get these failed soccer players off of my football field. That's my take on kickers as a whole. I want them out of the sport.
That's a good clip right there. We need to clip that one. Okay. I thought you might like that one because it'd make life tougher for kickers.
I don't want it to, like, I don't even know. It's hard to even put my disdain for the kicking game in the NFL into words, but I don't want them to miss kicks. Like, I don't want points left on the board. It's not good for overs.
Let me summarize Mark's position. I don't want them to miss kicks. I don't want them to have kicks.
Yeah, no, I don't want kicks.
I don't want them to be bad at their jobs. I don't want them to have jobs.
Yeah, I'm not a jobs creation guy when it comes to kickers.
All right, well, that's
my
wrap up my rule proposals. Did you have one more? I think you said you had 3.
Oh, they have a chip in the ball, use it. It's a $1 billion industry, and we're eyeballing spots on first down. We're just eyeballing it. I don't know if that's use the chip in the ball or let's review it.
That's true. We got the 10-foot long or the 10-yard long chain that they go by from Home Depot that broke 2 times this year at the link, by the way, which is hilarious.
Breaking chains.
When your field is the link and the link and your chains keep breaking. But yeah, it's so subjective. Like, you got 2 officials running in from opposite sides of the field. And I always think it's funny, like, you'll see the sideline view and they're running in like a yard apart. And it's whichever guy gets the ball, he spots it where he's at. Yeah, with you. And I think that, I mean, the chip is like in the middle of the ball. I'm fine with that. Like, if it means the middle of the ball has to get into the end zone, the only reason we just use like breaking the plane now is because we're taking imprecise eyeball measurements. Like, if you're using an objective chip in the middle of the ball to spot the ball, I don't have a problem with that at all. I think that's a lot better. It's the same thing, and I'm not a big baseball guy, but it's the same thing with like automating ball strike calls. I have no idea why anyone other than an umpire would ever be against that. Like, if you can get the call right 100% of the time, why would you ever not want to? It doesn't make any sense to me.
I agree with you 1,000,000% on the umpires.
Okay, well, Arthur Smith catching strays, umpires catching strays, kickers are catching a lot of strays on this podcast. But that's all the rule proposals that I have. But I've been tweeting out some stuff this week that we're going to spend a few minutes talking about. A few teams that I'm interested in for next year, some explosive play rate stuff that I tweeted out. But Mark, you were the one that brought these up. Where do you want to start with this?
Wherever you want to start. I thought they were all interesting. There was, I think it's mostly AFC ones that I was noticing. They were all interesting, and a couple of them involve takes that I kind of help my opinions on the 2023 season. Let's start with Pittsburgh.
All right, let's start with Pittsburgh, a team that I'm really high on for this coming season, but I'm high on them with a catch that we get to at the end. So I put this one out today. These are all on Twitter at ShaneHalfNFL. You guys can go follow them. But I think the Steelers are a fascinating team to watch this season. You look, I mean, the season started really bad for them last year. You start out losing TJ Watt in the first game of the season. And we were on Chalk Talk saying as they hit their bye, like, Mike Tomlin would have to do the best coaching job of his career to keep his no losing record streak intact. And he did. They won 7 of their final 9 games. But aside from that, like, Kenny Pickett started to play a lot better. After their week 9 bye, he ranked 6th in EPA per play. They won 7 of 9 games, and their 2 losses came to the Bengals and the Ravens by a combined 9 points. And in the Bengals game, Pickett got banged up, so he missed part of that game. So they're a radically different team after the bye. And then part of what made me start thinking about this, Mark, is you've talked about it on the podcast, how vital TJ Watt is to their success. He tore his pec, missed 7 games, right? He returned after the bye, but the defense, when he was gone, gave up 25.3 points per game, which would rank 30th in the league, 389.9 yards, which would rank 31st. They had 8 sacks, which would be on pace to be 32nd in the league. They had 5 takeaways, which would be on pace, extended over a full season, to be 32nd. With Watt in the lineup, those numbers changed dramatically. They went from 30th in points per game to 2nd, 31st in yards per game to 1st, 32nd in sacked to 7th, 32nd in takeaways to 3rd. And, oh, by the way, your favorite stat, the Steelers are 59-26-2 when TJ Watt plays, and they're 1-10 when he doesn't.
Yeah, they were 8-2 last year when he played.
And
unreal.
Presumably, I mean, because he's a durable guy, he hasn't missed games. He just had a bad injury last year, so presumably he's going to play. And then you just go down to, we loved what they did in the draft. Broderick Jones, Joey Porter Jr., both were top 15 on my board. I'm pretty sure they were both, I think you were actually higher on both of them than I was. They signed Isaac Seumalo away from the Eagles, and Isaac Seumalo, I've said for years, is criminally underrated. Even Jason Kelce has talked about how intelligent he is, helping make calls in the interior of the line and stuff. So they had a great offseason, everything looks good. The twist, the negative is the two teams they lost to after the bye are both in their division.
Yeah.
The AFC North is going to be brutal, man. But I think the Steelers are primed to have a good year. But I think the AFC North is shaping up to be what we thought the AFC West was going to be last year. Just a brutal stretch of three really good teams battling it out. And they may not all three make the playoffs because of it.
And it's funny you say that because there's a lot of people who are really high on Cleveland as well. So just another team that people are high on. I think Cleveland will be the one that suffers the wrath of that division being really, really good. But
yeah, I have to see Deshaun Watson play good football again before I'm willing to say that I'll be in on Cleveland.
I still don't even love the roster that much either. So yeah, there's concerns aplenty there. But let's stick in that division and let's move over to let's go to Baltimore.
Okay, so Baltimore. My big thing for Baltimore is, I mean, I'm a big Lamar guy. You're a big Lamar guy. Before he got hurt in 2022, the Ravens ranked third in offensive DVOA. So they were phenomenal before his injury. Lamar was 12th in EPA per play, and he was 9th in success rate while he was throwing to Demarcus Robinson and Devin Duvernay. Remember, Rashad Bateman was hurt. This season, Greg Roman's gone. They bring in Todd Monken, big upgraded offensive coordinator. And instead of throwing to Robinson and Duvernay, he gets a wide receiver trio of Odell Beckham Jr., Rashad Bateman, and Zay Flowers. Now, granted, Odell Beckham Jr. is coming off of sitting out of a year after an injury in the Super Bowl. Granted, Rashad Bateman hasn't lived up to his first-round billing, and he's been injured, and Zay Flowers is a rookie. But even if you just say, like, two of those three are acceptable level NFL receivers, that makes it the best receiver core Lamar's ever played with. And so he's paid, he's happy, he's got a good coach, he's got a good OC, he's still got Mark Andrews, he's got his running backs coming back. I'm really excited about the Ravens. And again, it's that crossfire of that division. But I think the Ravens could have a really good year offensively as well.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. Todd Monken, I think we're giving him a lot of credit. I think I'm in a little bit more wait and see mode. In terms of, I didn't hate Roman as an OC as much as a lot of other people did. And I understood some of the gripes, but I think a lot of the problems with Greg Roman were personnel dictated. And like you said, this is definitely the best receiver core Lamar's ever had. I am not going to go all the way and say, oh, it's totally fixed. And, Lamar's got great weapons now. I think he probably still doesn't have like top 20 weapons, because he doesn't have that true, definite, defined number one guy. And maybe he does. Maybe Odell steps in and is that. Maybe Zay Flowers steps in and is that. But I agree. It's good that he has competent guys out there, because that's an improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have to think through like the weapon groups teams have to know where I'd rank them. It still wouldn't be high, but that's a much higher floor than it has been. For sure.
They did that on Around the NFL, so it would be a little bit of a copy job, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to do that as a portion of a podcast in the off season here.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So, okay, where do we want to go next?
Let's go to Miami, and let's help out the two Anon supporters out there who are still believing.
All right, so this is for you Miami fans, Tua on. In the first 11 weeks of last season, Tua ranked number 1 in EPA, number 1 in QBR, and number 2 in completion percentage. After that, of course, he's dealing with injuries. He didn't play. He played off and on, but in the games after he started getting injured, he dropped to 21st in EPA, 26th in QBR, and 31st in completion percentage. Without Tua on the field, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle combined for 0 touchdowns with Teddy Bridgewater / Skylar Thompson. I feel like the X factor for the Dolphins this year is, can Tua stay healthy? Tua has to stay healthy. He's got to prove that he can do that. That was a concern in the draft. Now, it was hip related, not concussion related, but that's why he fell some in the draft. And Mike McDaniel's got to continue to evolve his offense, because you saw like what the 49ers schemed up really stymied the Dolphins. And then everybody was copying that, and the Dolphins had trouble, and there's health things mixed in. There's the book was kind of out on them. You have to continue to evolve. But if those two things happen, if Mike McDaniel continues to evolve, and I think he will, because I kind of think he's a genius. So if Tua can stay healthy, I think they're very serious contenders in the AFC. That they added Jalen Ramsey and David Long on defense. They've got Vic Fangio in the building. But again, this is one of those divisions that is just loaded. You've got the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. You've got the Bills and Josh Allen. And we don't need to talk about the Patriots because they're kind of irrelevant. But this is another one of those divisions in the AFC that has three teams that should be viewed as serious contenders. And you start crunching the numbers with three teams in the AFC. What division? The AFC North that should be playoff contenders, and somebody's getting left out. And I don't know who it's going to be, but it's going to be one of these teams is going to be way better than a 7 seed we see get dominated on wild card weekend in the NFC.
Yeah, and that's not even bringing in the Chargers and Broncos into the conversation, who I think will be in the conversation. So it's like, that's been my biggest thing that when I've been going through kind of my projections for gambling for overs and unders and for props out there. I have the same teams winning the divisions as won them last year, with Buffalo, Cincy, Kansas City, and Jacksonville. I'm extremely confident Pittsburgh will make the playoffs, and I'm confident the Jets will make the playoffs. But then that 7th spot comes down to Miami, Baltimore, the Chargers, the Broncos. It's impossible for me to try to pick my 7 out of that. I'm going with Baltimore tentatively, but it's tough.
Who are the top teams in the NFC? You got 49ers and Eagles, Cowboys. Is there any other NFC team that you think is a serious contender?
Seattle, but that's more of like me being. I know I'm higher than consensus on Seattle, but I would throw Seattle in there.
I think 10 of the top 14 teams in the NFL are in the AFC.
So who did you say from the NFC? You said Philly, Dallas, San Fran, Seattle?
Yeah. All these AFC teams, including some of these teams that are going to miss the playoffs, are better than anybody else in the NFC that I can think of, at least off the top of my head.
Yeah, it becomes a how do you feel about the Vikings conversation, I think. Yeah, I know you're not high on them. Neither am I. I think I feel about the same about them as I do about Dallas.
Yeah, head coach factored in.
Dallas wouldn't make my top 12.
I don't know. Dallas's defense has been really good 2 years in a row. And I know he's old, but now they have Brandon Cooks on the offense. Like, Tyler Smith really showed out really well last year. I think Dallas is a really good football team. I think their defense is probably like a top 3 or 4 unit in the league. But as we've said time and time again, defensive performance is not sticky year to year. And so you never know what you're going to get. But on paper, they're a top 3. I don't know. Honestly, I might say they're the best defense in the NFL on paper.
I don't know if I agree with that. I'd have to look into it. But I felt like they just didn't improve from last year at all. Like, I don't think they've done anything to get better. That's kind of my thing with Dallas.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's wrap up my teams. I'm really high on that one of them's got to miss the playoffs in the AFC with the Bills, who I think people are more down on the Bills than they should be because of how last season ended. You think about last season, and there were such high expectations for the Bills. We all watched the season opener when it was like the Rams, before we knew they were terrible. They were playing too high. They were making Josh Allen hit the underneath throws and do the West Coast offense, and Josh Allen just executed it flawlessly. And it was like, oh my gosh, if Josh Allen can do that, they're unstoppable. And he was through the first 9 weeks of the season. Through the first 9 weeks of the season, he ranked second in EPA and first in success rate. He got injured in week 9, the elbow injury. And I won't claim to be a doctor or act like I know what was going on there, but for whatever reason, he could not throw short passes anymore. And you get into the end of the year, and it's like Ken Dorsey was like, fine, we just won't call short passes. And they got real shot heavy. The average depth of target just skyrocketed for the Bills, and they got inefficient. And Josh Allen looked like he was trying to play hero ball. And you had the whole DeMar Hamlin thing, and you're running on emotions from that. And I don't know how that all coalesces, but after his injury, which is where I just kind of chopped it off here, his EPA per play dropped by 31%. He was remarkably inefficient. He's had the offseason. The elbow is healed. So if this was a physiological thing, as I think it was primarily, we should see that week 1 through 9 Josh Allen back. Now, if it was a psychological thing, who knows? Hopefully, with time, that's hopefully gotten better. Maybe he's going to start playing hero ball again. I don't really know on that part of it. I can't speak to that, but I assume it was mostly physiological because you saw his inability to throw the short ball accurately right after the injury before everything else started to happen. And you would have thought that would have healed up over time, but he's playing through it. Maybe it doesn't. But then they add Dalton Kincaid, who we were both pretty big fans of. They add Osiris Torrance in the draft. Both of those guys were top 30 players for me. So I thought they got some nice pieces on the offense. And again, loaded division. Aaron Rodgers just moved into the division. But I feel like this division still runs through Buffalo. But the Jets and the Dolphins are going to make this really interesting. The AFC East is going to be much must-watch football. It's like the Patriots ran this division for like 18 years, and now the inmates run the asylum, and it's like New England is dead, and everybody else is just throwing a big party.
Yeah, no, I think they're gonna win the division. I have them in my top 5 on my power rankings. I have them 5th, and I do think we're doing this whole Josh Allen's a loser thing and he's never going to get it done. And it's like, can we not erase what happened with him against Mahomes 2 years ago? Like that wasn't his fault.
Yeah. If they had my overtime rules, actually, no. Let me rephrase that. If they had Mark's overtime rules, that game would still be going on.
Yeah.
Because they would still be trading touchdowns every 3 plays. I firmly believe that if you put a college style overtime in that game, there would have been like 8 of them because those 2 teams were going to keep scoring. 350
to 343.
Yeah.
Final
Sorry,
score.
guys. We have to delay the draft because a playoff game is still going.
People are just waiting at the Super Bowl.
I don't know. Are you a Harry Potter fan?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe some of the listeners are, but it's like when they talk about at like the World Cup, the Quidditch World Cup, that there was some game that just like continued going because they couldn't catch the snitch, and they were like bringing in replacement players so guys could sleep and then play again, and we could have that going on with a football game.
Quidditch is basically lacrosse, right? Lacrosse adjacent with wings.
Yeah, and a super powerful ball that if you catch it, it ends the game and you always win. Honestly, objectively, and I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, but Quidditch is kind of a dumb sport because every goal is 10 points, and then the snitch is like 250 points, and so like it's just that's the only thing that's important. Whoever catches that is almost always going to win.
J.K. Rowling did not know ball. Like she did not know ball enough to create a sport.
Yeah, she knew enough to create an entire magical fantasy world that's incredible, but her magic sport, it might need a little bit of help. So, okay. And then the last thing I had that Mark was talking about, I've been working on, I was doing a lot of digging into explosive plays, and the Eagles were just phenomenal in terms of explosive plays last year. They led the league in explosive plays, which is rushes over 10 yards and passes over 20 yards. And the gap between the Eagles and number 2, which was 16 plays, is about the same as the gap between number 2 and number 18. They were 33% above league average in explosive plays. And so I tweeted this out, and somebody asked me to do it in terms of like percentages, because I think it was a Bears fan. Like the Bears didn't pass much. So like, is their explosive pass rate that bad, or did they just not have many because they didn't throw it much? And I thought that was interesting. So I plotted that out, and let me find it here. Here it is. So this is explosive play rate. Now, one data nerd disclaimer here is that quarterback scrambles are calculated as rushes rather than dropbacks in this. And that shouldn't be how it is, but it's how I was able to get the data. So a QB run counted as a rush. So the further right you are, the higher your explosive pass rate was, and the Eagles led the league. And the further up you are, the higher your explosive run rate was, and the Ravens led the league by a mile in terms of explosive run rate. So here's the chart. It's on my Twitter. If you guys are listening on audio format later, you can check that out. If you're watching on YouTube or something, it's up here on the screen. But Mark, does anything stick out to you here in terms of explosive play rates from last season?
Nick Chubb's really good. If you have a mobile quarterback, you're going to be able to run, and it's going to help your passing game as well.
Yeah, so. Pause there for a second. We just talk explosive run rate. Stop me when I'm just going to go down the list. Stop me when I get to a team that doesn't have a mobile quarterback. The Ravens, the Browns, the Giants, the Bills, the Bears, the Eagles, the Seahawks.
Yeah, the Seahawks
I guess Geno's not super mobile. The Falcons, the Raiders. So the Raiders is pretty much where you totally drop it off. But yeah, mobile quarterbacks are absolutely a cheat code. I've said this before. I would not draft a quarterback in the first round in today's NFL that can't move. That doesn't mean they have to be Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts in terms of mobility, but they've got to at least be Trevor Lawrence. They need to be able to move. They can tuck and scramble if they need to. Be Patrick Mahomes. Everybody wants to be Patrick Mahomes, but in terms of mobility, be Patrick Mahomes. Just able to improvise. That would be an absolute requirement for me, a deal breaker if a quarterback didn't have that.
Yeah, it's a shame you won't see many more Carson Strongs or Ryan Mallett's RIPs. So it's going to be pretty much only guys who have a certain level of athleticism in terms of running in the pocket.
To be fair, we never saw Carson Strong, so.
We would have if his knees weren't the worst knees on the planet.
He literally released his own highlight reel from OTAs. Do you remember that?
No, I don't. I don't remember.
After he got cut, he released like some footage of OTAs, like a highlight reel. I think he was trying to get another team to pick him up. So, anyways, anything else stick out to you on that?
No, nothing much. I'm actually surprised Houston's as high as they are in explosive pass rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing much.
The Bengals running game was atrocious.
Yeah.
It's third worst in the league in terms of explosive run rate. That and then the Chargers just being as bad as they are with Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler. That's just a travesty.
The Titans are just mid as possible.
I am excited that Kellen Moore is out of Dallas now and in Los Angeles because I've always liked Kellen Moore, and now I feel like I can actually root for Kellen Moore.
Yeah. Yeah, you're all in on Kellen Moore now. He better be the guy.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's about all that I have for our peak off-season podcast here. Mark, do you have any other tangents you want to lead us on? Any final thoughts? Anything you need to get off your chest?
No, I can't believe we went 55 minutes in peak off-season.
Yeah, I can't believe your final thought wasn't to kick all the kickers out of the league.
Get rid of the kickers. I'm out.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode 113 of Chalk Talk. If you enjoy what you heard on the show, and we hope that you do, I'll scale that down from we know that you do after this one. But smash that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you don't miss our next episode. Drop us a 5-star rating and review wherever you stream your podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter and YouTube at ShaneHalfNFL. You can follow Mark on Twitter at MarkHenryJr_. If you guys have topics you would like to see us cover, we're already planning to do QB rankings. I know that's on the docket. We'll do some other ranking sort of stuff, but kind of non-ranking oriented podcasts because we don't want to just turn into a ranking podcast every week. So if you've got topics, things you want us to talk about, hit one of us up on Twitter. DMs are open. We want to talk about what you guys want to talk about and persevere through this off season into the final stretch. We're about 4 weeks away now from OTAs and stuff starting, and so we'll actually start to get back into semi sort of real football stuff. So hit us up with those ideas. Other than that, we will catch you guys next week for another edition of Chalk Talk.